Coming up, live football, the London Masters at 7 on Sky Sports 1, live rugby league, Hull KR Lee at 2 on Sky Sports 2, and live speedway, round 1 from Poland at 6, also on Sky Sports 2.
This is Sky Sports Live.
Britain's Dan Weldon has led 390 of the 1,405 laps of this year's Indy Racing Series, but has just the one victory at the Homestead opening round to his credit. So can the man in white frame sunglasses finally make it to victory circle again for the Ganassi team and break Team Penske's winning streak? The reigning IndyCar champion has taken his second consecutive pole, but can he translate that into first place? We're about to find out in tonight's Firestone Indy 200 from Nashville Superspeedway. Hello there, welcome. Tonight it's the 1.33 mile Kentucky track, which will see the latest round of the Indy Racing Series, but in a city better known certainly for America's biggest horse race. Who will have the horsepower tonight? First though, let's check out our headlines. And Dan Weldon starts on pole position for a second race running. His lap speed 203.293 miles per hour. And for a second race running, it's Indy 500 winner Sam Hornish who lines up alongside him. Dario Franchitti won this race last year. This time the Scot starts fifth. And Australia's Ryan Briscoe and Jeff Bucknam return to the series, replacing Jacques Lazier and Felipe Giafoni. But perhaps the biggest talking point this week, in the wake of Juan Pablo Montoya's defection to NASCAR, is whether or not Danica Patrick will take the same route in 2007. Well, to throw some light on that topic and plenty more besides, my guests are Paul Cherry and Darren Manning. Paul, let's come to you first of all. Danica's parents last week, TJ and Bev, openly being hosted at the NASCAR event. Juan Pablo announced his bombshell. So is she seriously going to jump ship and go?
There's a good possibility. She's at the moment she's still hot property after last year's amazing rookie season. She's not comfortable with what she's doing now. The cars have all gone the same route, chassis, engine, tyres, etc. She's not having the same success, and maybe she's looking for a fresh challenge. Obviously there's a lot of sponsorship interest in her to run in NASCAR, so who knows, but I don't think it's a good decision for her at the moment.
Why not?
Principally because NASCAR, whilst they race on the oval, is such a different discipline to an IndyCar.
What about the physical challenge for a start?
Without a doubt, the physical challenge is there. But I think you have to be fair to Danica and say she has proved these IndyCars, you've got phenomenal grip, phenomenal G-forces. She's managed to do that. I think she would be able to adapt to it, but I just think that if she goes in at this stage where it is so competitive, if she has the wrong team, the wrong engineer, the wrong crew chief, it's all over in a season for her.
But financially it could be a real bonanza, could it?
Without a doubt. Financially, the money there is probably 10 times what she's earning now, and that's just in endorsements.
And she likes a bit of publicity?
Not been known for being shy at the camera face.
I don't know, so I'll take your word for that. But Darren, whilst we're on this whole subject, Juan Pablo, very much, of course, a winner on the ovals. Victory for Chip Ganassi in the 2000 Indy 500 proves that. But is he going to be able to make the grade against people like Tony Stewart and Jeff Gordon?
I think so. You know, Tony Stewart's an Indy 500 winner as well.
There he is in action, in fact, doing just that. I mean, he was a great success on oval race.
He was, and great success for Chip in the Champ Car Series on the road circuits and on ovals. And like you say, when he jumped ship to do the IRL here at the Indy 500 for Chip, so he's got a great relationship with him. And I think his cavalier attitude is the way he is. He's a kind of happy-go-lucky character, and I just don't think maybe, you know, Formula One and possibly McLaren suited his, you know, he wants to be in shorts and t-shirt all the time, and you know, and I think he'll have that in NASCAR. And you know, a lot of guys, you know, like the Tony Stewarts and the Jeff Gordons, they're very similar characters to Juan, and as long as he don't get banged around a bit too much or bang around some of the good old boys too much to begin with, I think he'll settle in fine.
But it was a shame in a way because he came here with such a high reputation. Everyone was looking forward to that translating to Formula One. No doubt he is a talented driver, but he never quite produced it consistently enough, did he?
No, you know, Formula One is difficult, isn't it? You know, he showed in all the junior categories. You know, I raced against him in Formula 3 and things, and he was a great talent then. And you know, he went over to America. Frank Williams wanted him to see. He was a test driver for Frank, and he sent him over to Chip to see what he was like as a race driver.
Yeah.
And he set the American scene on fire. Came back, and maybe, you know, Formula One, you need to be. One year it's a red car you need to be in, the next one it's a Renault car you need to be in. So I don't think he had the right team at the right time to really show his talent. But
and what would you make of the financial situation for him? I mean, how will that translate between Formula One and going back to America?
I think he'll earn more than all the drivers in Formula One put together, to be honest, really. I mean, NASCAR is a huge, as Paul was saying for Danica, it's the same implication for somebody like Juan as well, and he's also got the South American interest as well, which a lot of the NASCAR manufacturers and sponsors will want to, you know, capitalise on.
And you were saying some of the drivers, I mean, they have so many hits on their website and they have these incredible marketing campaigns behind them. They make millions in a quarter.
Yeah, just
without racing. Just
I mean, they've got their salary, which is pretty good anyway. They've got the prize money, which is huge, which is millions, and then just from the merchandising alone, I mean, each race there's hundreds of thousands of people there, and they have 40 races a year.
Yeah.
And the TV they're on in America, you know, in Indy, you can't change channel without getting a NASCAR show.
Yeah.
So it's just huge, and he'll earn definitely more than Michael.
Right.
Sure.
And Paul, what do you make of what will the future will hold for Juan Pablo? What do you think 2007 will bring?
Well, it'll be interesting, and it'll certainly perhaps make me want to watch NASCAR for a while. The thing he's just got to remember is that NASCAR's a pack-hungry sport, and you've got to have friends in the pack.
Yes.
It's not a thing where you can single-mindedly drive from wherever you are to the front. You have to use your teammate draft, and there has to be a bit of strategy. So I'm sure he'll adapt to that quite quickly. Chip's got a fantastic team. They've been very competitive in NASCAR. I think, you know, Juan's going to just get into the saddle and do the job that Tony Stewart's done.
So you think this is a good move after the problems of Formula One?
Formula One's lost, and unfortunately Juan is the sort of individual that needs somebody to put his arm around him and coax the best from him. When he's entrusted to do it just as a job, I don't think the focus is there. He needed somebody perhaps like Eddie Jordan to look after him. But I think in NASCAR he's got that with Chip, because Chip nurtured him big time in Champ Car when he was a multiple champion in that discipline. He went straight into the IRL and won the Indy 500 at his first attempt and pole position, which is pretty good for a rookie.
Right.
And went into Formula One, and he did have race wins. I mean, let's not say he was a damp
given
squib.
us some moments, hasn't he?
You know, I remember the first year when he outdiced Michael Schumacher at Interlagos. I mean, everybody said you don't do that, but he did.
Yeah.
But the trouble was he wasn't given enough leeway to be Juan Pablo.
So overall, you think it's not a bad move for him?
Absolutely not, and as Darren said, I think the pension fund will swell quite considerably.
Okay, let's come back to our race this time. Darren, it's a very different racetrack this weekend, isn't it? Because after a whole series of 1.5 mile ovals, a shorter track with a concrete surface, different sort of challenge for the drivers.
Yeah, absolutely. Nashville, it's a concrete track. It's very different for a driver. It's not the big super speedway like you said. It's kind of the in between from the 1 mile oval, you know, 1.3. It's right in between. So it's not, you know, short lining it all the way around. It's, you know, there's not too many grooves there, and like I say, it's concrete, and it's you get the old teeth chatter going around. It's not the smoothest track in the world, and it does grate the tyres really. It's like a washboard effect on the track, and really you need a very good setup because those corners are just a little bit tighter than the super speedways.
And Dario won here last year. He's 5th this time round, so the indications are he might go well again.
Yeah, his home track, or his adopted home track in Nashville, you know. So yeah, I think he always goes well there. You know, I think the Andretti Green Cars have won their last 2 years with Tony and Dario, so he's up near the sharp end, and that's all you need to be in these races till a last sprint at the end.
Yeah, and Paul, what do you make of Dario's chances this time round? Because we were discussing before we came on air, and you were saying that the sort of series is starting to sort of take this sort of shape where, for one reason or another, the obvious people are on the front row and the not quite so obvious on the second row, and so on. It's sort of money, power, prestige, and all these things combining, and it's sort of predetermining how the races will go.
Yes, I mean, as we've said before, everybody's got identical equipment. There's no difference here. And we're kind of lining up on budget and then ability. And I think Andretti Green, who have been used to having 2 years of unfettered race wins, fastest laps, pole positions, has suddenly been caught with, oh, hang on, we need to sort of up our game.
Yeah.
Tony and Dario are towards the front here, but I'm sure they would have preferred to have been that little bit further ahead.
Yeah, but having said that, I mean, is this a valid criticism that's going to carry on? Can you say things changes in terms of money and, as you say, results and performances and things? Is it just going to be determined by that? It's a shame if it is.
No, I mean, there's always going to be a surprise result. Look at Vita Mira. I mean, he's driving for Panther. They've got about $1.50 in sponsorship money.
But that's what people love to see.
Absolutely. Drove from the back 2 races ago, came through to snatch second place.
Yeah.
Might have won the race if it had gone 2 more laps. That's the sort of thing that does make it really interesting. It has got a little bit predictable at the moment, but that's because of the situation the IRL finds itself in.
Yeah.
Maybe there'll be a rule change over the winter that will just liven things up.
Okay, boys, thank you. We're going to leave it there for a moment because right now we've got a chance to hear from the 2 guys who are going to be sitting on pole, indeed on the front row. It's Dan Weldon and Sam Hornish.
You know, I think everybody at Target Chip Ganassi Racing is very motivated to beat the orange and white cars. I respect Roger Penske immensely, but there's definitely a rivalry that's getting more competitive. So we just need to beat them. For me personally, I have nothing to lose. I'm 4th out of all the cars in the points, and when I say I mean the 2 Ganassi cars and the 2 Penske ones. So I just got to go for it, and being on pole helps. And obviously Andy Brown and the engineering staff have definitely got me dialed in here. There's no doubt about it.
It's been hotter than a midsummer afternoon in July. Sam Hornish Jr., with that win in Kansas, you vaulted your way into the lead in the points chase. How important is it to be the hunted?
I think we're just going to continue to do the same things that we've done that got us to this point so far. That's, make wise decisions out on the racetrack, try to stay out of trouble, make it to the end of these races. DNFs are really going to hurt you this year if you're one of the top 4 guys that are fighting for that championship. So, the big thing for us to do is just to make sure that we continue to move forward.
This concrete mile here at Nashville, what's the biggest challenge for you and Team Penske?
The biggest challenge is we've got to, keep the car right, down onto the bottom of the racetrack, stay, from getting up in the marbles, and good pit stops. The guys have given me awesome pit stops the last couple of weeks, so hopefully we'll continue on with that, and, we'll get the lead at some point and just stay there.
Well, I wonder if he will be staying there. Let's get the reaction from the 2 boys. Darren, what do you make of that front row? It's an interesting one, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. You're seeing this more and more. Helio and Scott are generally the guys just a little behind Sam and Dan. They tend to have the qualifying pace, and sometimes the other 2 are just getting the consistent points. But it's time for Dan to step his foot on the gas for the win, isn't he?
Some ground up, hasn't he? Dan, quite apart from anything else, sounds more and more American each time we hear him, doesn't he?
I think it's without a doubt those sunglasses. But just
you don't like those, do you?
They're not perhaps my ideal cup of tea. But just to go back to that, I think you've got to realise, as I've said consistently for years, Penske always have race day strategy. Chip has got good strategy. He's got good guys. He makes good calls himself, but the captain pretty often outfoxes them. And when we have this situation where the cars are identical, as Sam has just said, it's pit stops and the final lap strategy.
It's going to be a good race, this. We're looking forward to this.
Without a doubt.
Yeah, and obviously atmosphere at a night meeting too, because that's what it is in the States. I mean, that's something rather different.
Makes a fantastic event.
Okay, boys, thank you very much. So yet again then, the 4 red and white cars, the 2 Ganassis and the 2 Penske cars, despite a flood at their Pennsylvania race shop, starred in the 4 top spots. Can their stranglehold on the championship be broken tonight? We shall find out over the next couple of hours, but let's first of all take a break. Hello again, welcome back to the music capital of North America for tonight's Firestone Indy 200. Britain's Dan Weldon starting on pole position, certainly sounding pretty confident. My guests this evening, Paul Cherry and Darren Manning. Before we cross to Kentucky, your thoughts on whether or not Dan can do it. Let's also mention Dario, of course, because he did well last year. What do you reckon, Paul?
Well, Dario's the champion. He's the race winner of last year, and he got that fantastic guitar trophy. I'm sure he'll want to get another one to match the other side of the fireplace, but he's got a big battle ahead of him. Andretti Green have definitely been struggling this season. They've got all the same equipment, as we've said, but Dario really needs to feel comfortable.
Yeah.
Got a good setup here. He knows the track well. He came into his own big time in the last third of the race last year. Anything's possible if the two front guys get mixed up.
Yeah, but this race really marks entering the second half of the season out there, doesn't it, Darren? I'm just thinking from Dan's point of view, vital that he does well, because he's, 40-odd points behind.
Yeah.
He's got to really start catching them up.
Absolutely, he definitely needs a win, doesn't he? I mean, it's definitely the championship settling down into 4 title contenders, isn't it, with the 2 Penske guys and the 2 Ganassi cars. With Sam leading the way, and Dan needing to kind of, he's about 40-odd points behind, I think now, isn't he? So
right.
He really does need to put a win in. But I think it's interesting, actually, just the fact that that Ganassi have actually had the last 2 poles. It's generally been, hasn't it, that Penske have had the qualifying pace, and the Ganassi cars have come back to them in the race. So maybe things are just flip-flopping a little bit.
Okay, just before we go to the action, I just want to ask the two of you about Ryan Briscoe and Jeff Bucknam returning to the series. What do you make of that, Paul?
Good for Ryan. He needs a ride. He had a fantastic run in the Dry and Reinbold car at Watkins Glen. Admittedly, that's a road course, which of course he's very good on. But
this was, I remember this now. This is horrendous.
This was his horrendous accident at Chicago, which, having seen Kenny Brack's accident, we all thought at the same time that was going to be. But in fact, Darren went to the hospital and saw him, and he remarkably was back in a race car inside 2 months. I think 3 months.
Darren, you were saying you saw him, and he was a week in hospital having intensive care because he breathed in flames or heat into his lungs and all sorts of problems.
Absolutely. It was in a nasty way. He was having to have massages on his legs, and his body was just kind of in shutdown mode, really. Those kind of G-forces that had flung him round. It wasn't on the walls. You get a glancing blow sometimes, and obviously the walls can still be pretty bad. But that flung him round, and he got messed up all his
internals. It takes huge courage to come back after something
this
like that.
This is his first oval. Obviously he did the Watkins Glen race back in a car. That was his first race after the accident, but this is his first time back over 200 miles an hour, and he was saying on the internet and things, saying he was took him a few laps to get back up to speed.
Well, we wish him well. And what about Jeff Bucknam? Let's tell us a bit about him, Paul.
Jeff's a bit of an American enigma. His father was Ronnie Buckman, was very famous, drove for Honda in Formula One, did a lot of test and development work. Jeff's not a bad driver. He's a better sports car driver, I think, than a single-seater driver. AJ sort of fell out with Felipe Giafoni. Giafoni wanted to change the engineering direction, and AJ said that was good enough in '67, so we'll leave it as it was. So Jeff's in there on merit and the fact that AJ's a friend of his father, so we'll see.
But you wouldn't expect to see too much from either of those guys, not really at the business end of the race, or would you?
I think Ryan would be very capable of sneaking through and taking some good points once, as Darren says, he gets his confidence back. But Jeff, I think, probably might star in the early part of the race, but not how we suspect.
Yeah, and overall, what sort of race, Darren, do you think we're going to see?
Well, I think Nashville's always a very interesting race because it is a little bit of a tighter oval, and it's going to be harder on the car and setup and tyres because it is this concrete track, and it is dark it's starting to get dark as we're seeing here, and the conditions do change throughout the race.
Boys, thank you very much indeed. So as you can see, the action just about to get underway. It's high time now to cross to the USA. Join our commentators,
Martin
Gary Lee
Firestone,
and Larry Rice.
Andrew Firestone to give that command.
Gentlemen and lady, start your engines!
Of course, if he looks familiar, it's because he was a bachelor on the television series The Bachelor. I'm not sure where all over the world that particular show goes or went when he was featured on it, but get a chance to select from like 24 bachelorettes. There is Jeff Bucknam. We'll start in the last row. He's the new driver for A.J. Foyt. Looking back back off of Vito Mira's car. There's a look at Delphi number 8 of Scott Sharp. So one by one, the crew raises the arm and lets the pace car driver know that they're about ready to go. The pace car driver, of course, again, is the 3-time Indianapolis 500 champion, Johnny Rutherford. The sky, I think, looks pretty good now compared to what it did about 2 hours ago. Looked a little ominous when those rains came through.
Yeah, for sure. The Honda Hybrid is going to pace this race tonight. The first time a hybrid car has ever paced any kind of an IndyCar race or any kind of a race that I'm aware of.
Well, as the cars pull away, let's take a look at the starting grid. Once again, Dan Weldon up in front on the pole, his second straight pole position. First pole in a couple of years came last week in Kansas. There's Sam Hornish, the 5th time this season. He starts from the front row. In the second row on the inside is Scott Dixon. Scott Dixon with Ganassi Target and Elio Castro-Evans, who's second in the point standings, now starting outside. The second row, he has 3 victories so far this season. In the third row on the inside is the winner here last year, Dario Franchitti, and his teammate who won here 2 years ago, Tony Kanaan for Andretti Green Racing. As we move down to the fourth row, there's Vito Mira. He's had 2 second-place finishes this season alongside Scott Sharp, who's won 9 times in this series. His 116th start. Thomas Schechter starts inside of row 5. There's Danica Patrick, who's still looking for her first victory, starting outside of the 5th row. In the 6th row on the inside is Buddy Rice, and outside is Koski Matsura. That's row 6 as you ride along from the pole car, looking at that hybrid. Move now to row 7 on the inside. Brian Briscoe, his first oval track event since that grinding crash in Chicago a year ago. And there's Eddie Carpenter, a bachelor's degree in marketing from Butler University in Indianapolis. Jeff Simmons, the leading rookie qualifier this weekend at number 17, outside Brian Herta for Andretti Green. In the 8th row and the 9th row, Jeff Buckman, the new driver for A.J. Foyt in the ABC entry. And Marco Andretti, I don't know what happened to Marco. He was about 8th or 9th in practice, qualified dead last.
Unbelievable. I'm not sure exactly what happened either, but he was really, really slow. And there he is, and he wouldn't talk to anybody. Nobody really knows what happened because he wouldn't talk to anybody. 428-kilometer race. The pit window is going to be between 68 and 72 laps, and the pits are going to be very, very important here tonight. So they're going to have to make great pit stops. They're going to have to time them well. Dan Weldon, of course, is your pole sitter. He outqualified everybody by over a mile an hour and really gained a lot of speed.
Well, the weather has been hot today. It's been a pleasant breeze, and right now only partly cloudy, so really no threat of rain. That was a concern about 2 hours ago, but that dissipated. Ready to go racing.
Yeah, not much of a weather problem here tonight. It's not real hot. The wind's not going to be a problem either.
Well, we've completed 1,405 laps, and so far the Penske drivers have led 61.9%. Ganassi's led 32%, and AGR, as you saw earlier, only 2.9%.
Yeah, not real great.
Well, we should have the green this time by Larry. Once again, up in front, Dan Weldon, his second pole of the year, his second straight pole. Sam Hornish outside the second row, Scott Dixon. Elio Castro-Evans, the third row, Dario Franchitti, and Tony Kanaan. Franchitti won last year. Kanaan won 2 years ago. And let's see if Weldon has something, because Weldon on 3 occasions has led the most laps and got those 3 bonus points for doing so, but can only muster a win in the opener at Homestead.
Well, I can promise you he wants to win as bad as anybody on that racetrack right now. He really kind of has his heart set on.
3 wide in the first turn. 3 wide. Can you go 3 wide here, Larry? I guess you can.
Tony Kanaan just pulled off a pass that I would never have believed possible. That was unbelievable. Everybody's a little nervous to get 2 wide on this racetrack. He went 3 wide and didn't even make it look hard. Wow.
Well, that's the one that you kind of hold your breath until he actually makes the pass and clears the cars, because as we said, you don't expect to see 3 wide here. Dan Weldon grabs the lead.
Boy, that was an unbelievable turn number 1 as Kanaan just got a great jump on those guys, went right to the outside and passed a couple of guys. It was terrific.
Well, Kanaan now in 3rd position. Your leader is Dan Weldon. 2nd is Sam Hornish. 3rd is Tony Kanaan. And Kanaan started this race back in 6th position, so he picked up 3 spots on that start. Scott Dixon is 4th. 5th is Dario Franchitti. Vito Mira is 6th, and 7th is Thomas Schechter.
And Looks like the big loser.
Castor-Nevitz was the big loser on that one. He started in the 4th position, and he's back in 8th right now.
Yeah, I think
by Scott Sharp.
Yeah, he got really shuffled back on that start. He was on the inside of that second row, and I think whenever those guys went 3 wide, let's see if we can see it here.
Watch Kanaan. There's Kanaan in the green and white number 11. Let's watch the start of this race. He goes down low first.
Look how far ahead of Franchitti he was. He started next to Franchitti, and look at this. He goes way to the outside. There goes Mirabai Franchitti. Oh, that's
there was
why.
Contact. There was contact. That's why Castor-Nevitz was shuffled back about 4 spots.
Well, we didn't think there was room enough for 3 cars, and there wasn't. He got hit, and he lost way back. He went clear back to about 8th or 9th spot, so he lost at least 4 or 5 spots. And they're just coming off of that corner. There just wasn't enough room for 3 guys.
Well, Castor-Nevitz back there in 8th position right now. As you take a look at Kanaan, who is back there in 3rd, about 0.6 of a second behind your leader. Now keep in mind that your leader is Weldon. The driver that leads the most points will receive 3 bonus points. That's happened 3 times for Kanaan or for Weldon this season, but he really has not capitalized on all the laps he's led.
Well, he's had some very, very bad luck. He should have won about 3 or 4 races. Indianapolis maybe being one of them. But another time, he lost a wheel nut right on the very last pit stop with just a few laps to go. He lost that race. So he's lost at least 2 races, maybe 3, that were not anything to do with him when he was leading the race.
Well, of course, he made the jump this year from the Andretti Green team to the Chip Ganassi Target team, and of course won the season's opener. He wanted to prove that he could win with a different team. Last year, of course, AGR had the Honda engines. Other teams struggled with the Toyota, and he wanted to prove that he could win with a different team. He did so, looked very bright after that first win, and then they've struggled. As you indicated, a lot of problems that were not his doing.
Right, and you know, he was very brave in saying right up front that he thought that team was going in the wrong direction this year. Obviously, he's been proven right, and Michael Andretti was very upset with him when he made that comment, but it looks like that's happened.
Tony Kanaan starts to close in on Sam Hornish. Sam told you in that interview early on he wants to keep the car glued to the bottom in the corners. And there's Tony, who won here 2 years ago. So he and his teammate can start a band with their Gibsons if they won the last 2 years.
Well, those first 3 cars have pulled away a little bit from the second 3 cars, but still, Dixon, Franchitti, and Mira are hanging pretty close to them. You can see them back there in the background. Those 6 cars, though, have pulled into a pretty good lead off from everybody else.
Sam Hornish in second position has won the last 2 outings. Now, keep in mind, 2 of the drivers have won 3 in a row. It happened back in 1998. Kenny Breck was the first to do it during his championship season with A.J. Foyt. And then last year, Dan Weldon won 3 in a row.
Watch this throttle down here.
100%.
100%. They don't lift around this racetrack. When you got the thing set up right and you're not in traffic.
Look at the G-force, though. Watch the G-force in the corner.
Oh, yeah. The G-forces here are over 4 Gs through the corners, which is a tremendous amount of force.
The turns are banked 14 degrees. The front stretch 9 degrees. The back stretch 6 degrees. It is a tri-oval, 2.1 kilometers around.
Yeah, it's a very difficult racetrack. We talk about Richmond being in a bind all the time. Well, this track is not a lot bigger than Richmond, and still, it's a tri-oval, and it's a very, very difficult racetrack to drive.
Last year, Tony Kanaan led 75 of the laps, but his teammate led 74, and of course, Franchitti won this thing.
Well, right now, Dan Weldon seems to be setting the pace fairly easily. Nobody up there really challenging him at this point. I think everybody pretty happy just to keep him inside. I think Hornish right now hasn't been up there trying to nibble away at that lead, trying to make a pass or anything. They're trying to just kind of feel everything else to get ready for that first pit stop.
A couple laps earlier, let's watch as Scott Dixon goes up there and whoa, white walls the tires.
Yeah, that was off of turn number 4. He just went up. He didn't hit it very hard. I think that was more of a misjudgment than it was the race car not handling very well, because he didn't hit it very hard.
That's when you just run out of space.
Right. And the bad thing about these cars is it does not take much of a hit to bend the suspension on these things, so you got to be very, very careful.
Castor-Nevitz has moved up 1 spot. He's in 7th, but he is the only driver that has led every race this season. But right now, he's had a long way to go to find that top spot, because Weldon leads this thing after 15 laps with Hornish second, then Kanaan, Dixon, and Dario Franchitti.
And welcome back to our continuing coverage here on Sky Sports of the Firestone Indy 200, coming to you from Nashville Superspeedway. Early stages of the race yet, still a long way to go, but it looks like it's going to be a very exciting race. Let's now cross back to the States and our commentators Gary Lee and Larry Rice.
Tonight, not quite as easy. This racetrack is just a very difficult racetrack to pass on. So you've got to kind of sit there, wait on your time, and take it when you get it. Especially in traffic is the best time.
Well, there's the gap between first and second, and Hornish just waiting for Weldon to make a mistake, which is not likely this evening. Makes very few of them. Of course, he won the championship last year, won 6 races to set a season high and a record for total race wins in one season. Hornish back there. Hornish so far has won 17 times in the Indy Racing League. Castronovitz, his teammate, has won 10. Sharp and Weldon both with 9 victories.
Well, they're coming up on some lap traffic, so we'll see if Weldon can get through the traffic real well.
There's Scott Dixon back in the 4th position, and again, we saw him white wall his tires when he brushed the wall, and as you indicated, and we got off on another tangent, that these cars are very, very fragile. They can't take any hard hits like that.
No, you have to be very careful, even though it didn't look like a hard hit, and it wasn't a hard hit. It doesn't take a lot to bend those suspension pieces, and if you bend them or weaken them, as the race goes on, when you're pulling all those G's, it can cause you big problems later on.
Obviously, the G-force indicator on that car is not working right now. It's wonderful not working in that area, but 100% throttle. Just bury your foot, let it go. Of course, you saw him go by Jeff Buckman, who's the new driver for A.J. Foyt. Jeff is a former championship surfer. He spent about 3 years on the tour, won several surfing championships, but right now he's surfing on concrete here at Nashville Superspeedway. So once again, Weldon is your leader by 0.3 of a second over Hornish, then Kanaan. Dixon back there in 4th. You've been watching him. Franchitti is 5th, and Mira back in the 6th position. And Castronovitz and Sharp.
And Weldon really is. His RPMs, you can see on that when we were watching there, they weren't varying very much. They just cut the throttle down. They're going from 9,800 up to 10.2. That's about it. About 300 or 400 RPMs around the racetrack. That's all you can vary.
And watch Scott Dixon. They won the championship about 3 years ago. Back there in the 4th position.
Now, of course, he and Weldon both have 1 victory apiece. The Penske guys have all the rest of them. So Chip Ganassi right there, he's had kind of a tough year, even though they're running well in the point standings. They're the only guys who've been able to keep up with Team Penske. That guy right there is one of the most competitive guys on the racetrack. He would love to beat Roger Penske.
Of course, the big news also has been the hiring of Montoya. Juan Montoya leaving Formula One to rejoin Ganassi. Of course, he won the 500 for Ganassi, won the kart championship for Ganassi, and rejoins him in NASCAR. First time ever that a full-time Formula One driver left the series to join NASCAR. That could be real interesting to see how he fares in the big heavy taxi cabs next season. Dan Weldon continues to set the pace. He was fast in qualifying yesterday. It was interesting. We noticed yesterday in qualifying that he had what we call a tire ramp. And it was the only on the 2 Ganassi tires or cars that had a little air ramp over the rear tire. But then we noticed this evening before the race that Penske put on his car. So, hey, if you got something that worked, we're going to try it.
That's right. And the wind tunnels, those things show that they don't work all that well. But they put them on, and then some of the other guys put them on too because they made them go fast, or at least they were going fast yesterday. Maybe that wasn't the reason, but they certainly were. Of course,
Penske painted his cars purple and orange, and they want everybody to paint their cars purple and orange, right?
That's right. Right now, though, it just appears that Hornish is hanging right there with Weldon. He's every bit as fast, just waiting on traffic, waiting on a break. Of course, probably when they make their pit stop here in another 30 laps or so, that's where what he's hoping, that his pit guys can get him in and out, and they can take the lead during the pit stops.
Well, of course, traffic will play a role in this race, and obviously this racetrack is not the kind of track that we see like Texas, where you see side-by-side racing lap after lap. You're not going to see that tonight.
No, but you're going to see, when they get into heavy traffic, then it's going to get very interesting for all these guys.
And the track, the grooves will get wider as the race progresses.
he's not getting back up through that those guys nearly as quickly as he would like. And we talked about the fact that the starting position and track position are going to be extremely important, as it now looks like Weldon has started to pull out a little bit away from Sam Hornish. Hornish has been hanging in there about 2 car lengths back. All of a sudden he's dropped back about another 4 car lengths.
Well, and Hornish back there in second position, you know, now you're, 35 laps in on these tires. And this track is very abrasive on tires. Maybe the handling goes away slightly with the turbulence off that race car. He backs off this slightly. Let's wait for the next pit stop.
Well, that's right. And the tires are going to be a problem tonight. Not so much that they're going to wear out, anything like that. But if you, it could be a fact that if they go away, they make the car handle worse. And if you've got your car, if you don't have it set up perfectly, it can cause you some big problems.
Well, there's Kanaan, who is laboring about 1.6 seconds back in third position after that great and gutsy start at the beginning of this event, where he went high, went 3 wide to make the pass and pick up 3 positions in the first turn. You're back to Scott Dixon, who is back in fourth position. Scott almost 3 seconds behind your leader.
Yeah, Scott Dixon is gaining on Tony Kanaan. Tony Kanaan is steadily in the last 10 laps fallen back from the 2 leaders, and Dixon has steadily gained on him.
Well, there's a straightaway advantage now for Dixon as you go back to Franchitti, and Franchitti has all he can handle, and Vito Mir right behind him.
Now, Vito Mir seems to be just a little bit quicker right now than Franchitti, but he hasn't been able to get up there and challenge him and make that pass. But you can see right there, Franchitti had to get it out of the throttle just a little. Oh, somebody's
that's why slow. That was Button up there on the high side.
Look at this, though. Look at
almost
this.
Contact.
Mir goes to the outside. That's how hard it is, Pat. Oh, don't get up there. Ooh, that was pretty scary. He got up in those marbles, had to get out of the throttle.
Well, he had to go on the high side because the closing speed was so great as Franchitti got off the throttle trying to get by the inside of Buckham in the 14 car, and Mira had no place to go but the high side.
Right.
There's Scott Sharp. Sharp back there in the... Scott Sharp has gotten around Castroneves, so Sharp now is 7th. Castroneves drops to 8th.
Yeah, so Castroneves really having some problems here tonight. This is the most problem we've seen him have for a while. But Scott Sharp, again, having a good run. Not a top 5 run yet, but a very good run for him in that Fernandez Racing Team car.
Scott Sharp.
Oh, look at this. Here goes Schechter around.
Schechter by Elio.
So Castroneves really with some big-time handling problems here.
He needs a pit stop.
Yeah.
Well, of course, we saw that brush at the start of the race. Could there be a mechanical problem?
Well, it very well could be. It doesn't, as we said, it doesn't take much. He banged wheels. He might have been something just a little bit to knock that thing out of whack just a little bit, and it doesn't take very much.
Well, there's Thomas Schechter, who now is in the 8th position. Schechter out of Cape Town, South Africa.
Well, he's
one of the crowd favorites early on because he was so spectacular his rookie season. Almost won the Indy 500 in his rookie season. Led the most laps that season. That race, I should say, before making contact with the outside wall in turn 4.
Nobody's ever doubted his ability. Nobody's ever doubted
his bravery.
That's right. The only thing they once in a while doubt is his decisions. He's made some poor decisions as we go into Danica Patrick.
Danica Patrick right now back in the 10th position, but she's closing in on Castroneves. And apparently there's a problem in Tony Kanaan's number 11. An early pit stop for Tony Kanaan.
Not a good sign. He had a terrific start. We said he had been falling back. The first 30 laps he ran extremely well. Ran right with those guys, and then he started falling back.
Well, his dead stick coming in. There's no power as they go to the engine cover. Take the bonnet off.
For all the great luck that team has had over the last couple of years, it's hard to believe that they can have this much bad luck.
I learned that bonnet from our old buddy Derek Daly, who's from Ireland. He said, that's not an engine cover, that's the bonnet. So for all of our European friends, that's the bonnet they're going to take off.
So, yeah, he's... they've got the Honda engineers down there. They'll be looking at that, see if they can figure out what's going on. But usually when you come in dead stick, if it's not electrical, then it's something way too bad to fix.
Well, and even if it is electrical, it's going to take a long time to change the ignition.
Yep.
And
look at that.
He's going to be out of contention.
Boy, Weldon right there got a little squirrely as he got up behind that lap car.
That's Carpenter, isn't it?
And he tried to See, he's trying to run the outside a little more to see if he can make a
Just took
pass.
the air off his front wing, and he got very, very loose in front.
It's very difficult. See how hard it, he's quite a bit faster than Ed Carpenter, but he's having trouble right now lapping him. And this
may be what Sam Hornish is looking for as well.
That's exactly what Sam Hornish is waiting on. That's the reason he didn't get too big of a hurt earlier. He knows that when they get these cars that are lapping that are a little bit quicker, it's going to be very difficult. It might be his opportunity to make the pass.
Well, that jerks the wheel a little hard. Oh, look at that. Oh, well, that was a little gesture that we've come to recognize in all of motorsports.
Yeah.
I think Ed Carpenter got the message to get that. You know what, out of the way.
Yeah.
Now he's got Ryan Briscoe. Let's see how difficult it is to get by Ryan Briscoe. If Briscoe stays up high, he'll go on by on the inside. So Briscoe gave him the room that Eddie Carpenter didn't give him.
Welcome back to the Firestone Indy 200, coming to you live from the USA. And Britain's Dan Weldon continues to lead the way in these early stages, but there's still an awfully long way to go. Let's now cross back once again to our colleagues in America, Gary Lee and Larry Rice, for more action.
Very true. Very difficult to pass. And even when Franchitti got in the lap traffic, had to get out of the throttle, still didn't
have room on the high side to make the move.
Yeah, Mira just could not make the move. He got up beside him, but once he got down in the corner, he got those marbles. Oh, and here comes Franchitti in
Franchitti for his pit stop.
Wow, he's coming in pretty early. This is only lap 57.
Well, that may be pit strategy on the part of the Andretti Green team to stagger their drivers. So that moves Mira up to a fourth position.
Right now, he's the only Andretti Green driver that's up near the front.
In contention right now.
Yeah, with Kanaan out, the other two are running near the back of the pack. So with their win last year, obviously they figure this is good strategy for them.
Well, simply pit strategy. Let's see if they make any adjustment to that front wing, Larry. And no adjustment. And Weldon's coming in as well. So our first lead change will be on a pit stop.
Well, it might be that these tires are wearing out and they're losing speed. When they start running 199, 198 mile an hour where they were running 201, oh, look at Weldon. He added a bunch of front wings, so he's changing the handling, and he was leading that thing.
Now, there may have been adjustment to tire pressure in there's Casper Nevitin in the 27 car of Franchitti.
Right, tire pressure.
But there was no adjustment to the wing.
You can see that flasher on the wrist of the pit man when he's holding it up there. That thing's flashing.
Scott Sharp has killed the engine. Now let's see what pit he may be blocking. Here comes Herta.
Oh, there comes a whole bunch of them in there, and he's trying to get him out of the way.
And here comes Hornish.
And see, there's a case where it doesn't have to be your pit guys that are causing trouble. When you got a guy out there like that sitting in the middle of the racetrack, it can cause you to slow down.
Hornish in a quick pit stop.
Wow.
Long walk back, so that'll put him a lap off the pace.
Oh yeah, or 2 laps.
If in fact they can get the car refired.
Yeah, it quit so far down the pit lane. I'm surprised there might be another problem. Now they can't get it fired, so there's another problem. Usually, if you get that thing out of the pit box, you've already got fuel in it. You're getting the fuel, so there's got to be another problem with that car.
Well, we're showing Weldon back in front.
Yeah, and he's already up
2 seconds over Sam Hornish from that pit stop.
Boy, you can hear him grabbing gears when he got behind that lap car, trying to get shifted down, keep his momentum up when he went around that lap car.
So after the first round of pit stops, it's Weldon, Hornish, and Dixon. There is the number 15 car, Buddy Rice.
Yeah, and he's limping along trying to get in. That was him that Weldon went around, and he had to downshift because he slowed down so much right in front of him. Now he's going to be lucky. Oh yeah, he's not going to make it all the way around. So the yellow's out.
So Rice is coasting, and the yellow comes out. on lap 64. Now we had 4 yellow periods back in 2001 for a total of 36 laps. We had 8 periods of yellow in 2002 and 2003 for a total of 57 laps. So once again, our first yellow of the evening.
Welcome back to the Firestone Indy 200. We've got our first caution of the race. It's Buddy Rice actually cruising his way back into pit lane. So there's no obvious damage to the car. There's no debris on the track, Paul. We think this is just routine because there's a slowing car.
Yes, he may have a transmission problem. There's a small, very small possibility that he's run out of fuel, but at this particular point in the race, I wouldn't think so.
No, we're still, 60-odd laps in, and there's 200 to go in all. So we were wondering, weren't we? We saw Dario Franchitti come in, and we wondered quite why, and then suddenly everyone was coming in. So lots of problems with tyres earlier than they anticipated.
Well, as Darren was saying, and the benefit of having a chap who's raced there before, the track is enormously abrasive. But if it doesn't put down rubber on the racing line, then the tyres are going to wear much more than normal. And quite possibly this is what we're getting, because it's really hot and the rubber's not actually getting in the track, it's just rolling off.
I gather they're extending this yellow so they can actually clean the track. That's what we're hearing right now. So, Darren, that's no surprise to you. This is what you'd have expected.
Absolutely. They say always in the driver's briefing before the race here at Nashville that any caution, they're going to sweep the track, any opportunity possible, because there probably isn't that many marbles at the moment out there, because we've only had 60-odd laps, but any chance they get later on in the race, it's going to be an absolute nightmare on the high line.
Right.
You can already see the big black line where the cars have been running. It's 2 cars wide. The outside car's not on any rubber at all.
So the black line is the place to be.
Yeah, absolutely.
You don't want to be outside that.
Not unless you can help it.
No. And what do you make of Dan Weldon so far?
Yeah, doing good. Doing his usual thing, leading all the laps. I mean, this stage of the race, there's a lot of cat and mouse. Just getting your car set up perfectly for that big sprint at the end of the race. So the fact that Dan's leading might be a slight, false, it might be a false speed, effectively. Sam might be sat there and might have another, a lot more for him. And you saw him changing the wing in the pit stops, and they'll be changing tyre pressures and things. You saw, obviously, Helio was struggling with his setup at the beginning of the race. Obviously, he dropped back after just touching with Scott, but he couldn't get back through the field. Now people have had a chance to reset their weight jackers, reset their roll bars, new set of tyres on, got those worn out ones out of the way, and you'll probably see some cars more going back to the front.
Paul, while we were watching the action, you said, I think, that Sam just appeared to be a smidgen quicker than
just
Dan,
checking,
just on a straight line. You just
checking on the live timing here, that when they were running literally in race mode rather than lapping people, because as Darren said, you get a false figure sometimes when you get a tow, and he was running very comfortably, just a tad faster, which we've seen on 2 occasions now at the end of the race. Sam's had something in the bag, and I'm sure, as we heard before, Roger's been on the radio to him, just hang around, don't waste your time, stick with it, because behind is always better for the fuel.
Going back to incident, we saw a few laps back, there was a car suddenly in the middle of the road in the pit lane, and for a moment there was sort of chaos going on. What actually happened here?
Well, Scott Sharp, funnily enough, sort of made a clean getaway from his pit stop. His boys did everything perfectly, and the thing just quit in the pit lane. I would think it's going to be electronics, because again, I don't think the cars came in at a point where their fuel was critical.
Right, what did you make of that?
Well, I just think sometimes with these IRL engines, they're so peak power orientated, there's nothing down low, and I'm not making excuses for Scott, but they are pretty difficult to get out of the box. Even though they've got 700 horsepower, it's all up in the last couple of hundred RPM, and there's not much down low, and you can spin the wheels up, and then once they start to grip, sometimes they you get a secondary stall, effectively. So
they all stick together, these drivers, don't they?
Yeah, he's doing a great job, isn't he? Sounds convincing, actually, doesn't it? But we just briefly saw there the sort of chaos that can ensue, because obviously the pit crew come running down to sort the car out, and of course they're straight away cutting across the line that the other cars are taken to get in.
No, well, the problem there was if it had been a yellow, everybody would have come in at once. Because we were at a green flag point, everybody's coming in as they called them in. Unfortunately, they were coming in fairly staggered. If that had been the whole pack in one hit, then it might have been a little bit difficult.
Yeah. Okay, well, what we're going to do is we'll go back. I gather the yellow is still in operation, so this is an extended chance for the drivers to sort of regroup themselves and the teams, but unfortunately the racing not flat out at the moment, but this is not unusual, Paul. This is what you'd expect, obviously. It's all very tactical, and as Darren was saying, this is something you need to do on a circuit like this.
No, absolutely. This time of night, because of this...
And Buddy Rice, I gather, is officially retired now.
Yeah, Bobby was looking a little bit depressed there, so...
Yeah, they're having a bit of a hard time of it, the Ray Hall Letterman team cars with Danica and Buddy Rice. You see Danica there just changing the fuel back to full rich. It looks like they're probably going to go back to green ever so shortly. You can't see any yellow lights on the dashboard either, so looks like they might be going back racing shortly. But yeah, once these guys, the Ray Hall cars have changed to the Dalaras, they have struggled a little bit, and we tried this early on last year at Ganassi's, and it does take a few races to get the setup right.
Yeah. Okay, I think we're just about to go. It is the green flag, so let's cross back now once again to Nashville.
Once again on the restart, Weldon, Hornish, Dixon, Mira, and Franchitti. So Mira has moved up a couple of spots on that pit stop. There is a look at Marco.
Yeah, Marco's one lap down there.
He's a lap down, but he's right with the leaders.
Yeah, and he's going to give Sam Hornish a little bit of a problem there, it looks like.
Well, as they come 2 by 2, as they take that green flag to restart this race, there are some back markers. Some cars a lap off the pace back there right with the leaders. And look at this. Kanaan is back out.
Yeah, Kanaan back on the racetrack, but he lets Mira go on by him. So
well, he's a number of laps down, too.
There's a lot of laps down, so he's not going to cause those guys any trouble. But
Kanaan's about 17 laps off the pace right now.
Yeah, so Vito Mira got a terrific start. He got around Scott Dixon on that restart, and also passed, Kanaan right away.
So now he has to get by Marco Andretti, who's a lap off the pace. So Weldon now with the lead over Sam Hornish, then Mira, but Mira has that lap car of Andretti out in front of him. Let's see how easy he makes it for Mira to go on by.
Well, it looks like he's
in there. Lets him go on by. Yeah, lets him go on by.
Well, that's good. It's good to see the young man do something like that. Let him go on by because he knows he doesn't have a chance.
Yeah, he's a lap off the pace, so he lets him go. So Mira now tries to close in on Hornish. And Hornish right behind Dan Weldon. We work lap 76 at 200 schedule. Now you're right along with Mira. You see the gap between second and third. The first two are right there together on the racetrack. And then Mira is about 1.7 seconds behind Dan Weldon. Dixon is now fourth. Schechter is up to fifth. Franchitti drops to sixth. Castron up at seventh, which is about where he's been the entire race. Although remember, he came back in and topped off the field, so he can go another 3 or 4 laps beyond what these guys.
He was already at the end of the lead lap, so he knew he didn't have a lot to lose or a lot to by going in and doing that. So he can go a few more laps. Maybe it'll put him back in contention, because he knows once he lost all that ground on that initial start, it was very, 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 very difficult for him to make that up.
Only 9 drivers on the lead lap. Danica Patrick is back in 9th position, back to the lead. There's the gap between first and second. That's what we've watched all evening long from the start. It's been Weldon. The only time Weldon lost the lead is when he was in for pits.
Yeah, and I'm sure that Sam Hornish, we heard him talk about in the interview before the race, he was going to depend a lot on his pit crew to help him out as we take a look at Buddy Rice as he watches the remainder of this race from the pit area.
But that's tough for a race driver. It's very frustrating to be in the pit lane watching everybody else that are having fun.
Well, it really is. And we just said what a terrible, terrible time he's had since he won the Indianapolis 500.
A couple of laps ago, Franchitti and Schechter got very close on the racetrack. Now you're riding with Franchitti.
And he comes up, they've got a lap car in front of him, and Schechter's trying to get around the lap car. And whoa! Franchitti, he didn't know Franchitti was there. Franchitti tried to go around underneath him. He didn't see him there and almost pulled down into him.
Franchitti got off the throttle to avert disaster that time. Because if he ripped up through the tire, he'd gone through.
Oh, yeah. But, Schechter, he was busy with the car in front of him. He didn't have time to look in his mirrors. That lap car in front of him was causing him some problems. And he didn't have time to look in the mirror And when Franchitti tried to stick his nose in there and he came down, you're right, they almost touched tire.
He lost the RPMs by checking up on the throttle. Cass Evans got by him, so Elio is up to 6th position. Franchitti, who won this race last year, back to 7th. Koski Matsura is 8th, and 9th is Danica Patrick. So now 9 cars still on the lead lap. 10th is Marco Andretti. 11th is Brian Herta. Jeff Simmons is 12th, and Carpenter is 13th, and Ryan Briscoe. Tony Kanaan well off the pace. He's about 17 laps back in the 15th position. Buddy Rice is out. Scott Sharp is out, and Jeff Buckman is showing some 46 laps off the pace.
And look at this. The best Andretti green car is Franchitti in 7th. 7th, 10th, 11th, and 15th. Nobody would have ever believed that a year ago that these cars would have been running this poorly at this racetrack.
Did they have such an advantage just because of the engine last year?
Well, they had a huge advantage with that engine, but I think the other thing is, I really believe that the reason Ganassi and Penske are running so well, they spent all year trimming their cars out, making them absolutely perfect so they could run with the Hondas. So this year, when Team Green did not have that horsepower advantage, they didn't have their cars trimmed out.
So you're trying to say that they really didn't do their homework like the other teams did?
They didn't have to last year. And this year they've been playing catch-up, and they just haven't done a very good job of catching up, to be quite honest.
Well, but it would seem that the team should look ahead and say, next year we're going to have the Hondas, and we need to do our homework.
Well, you know, but sometimes when you're running that good and you're that dominant, you don't really know. You don't want to believe it's all.
Of course, it happened. Let's go back to '94 at the Indy Motor Speedway with Penske. He had that pushrod Mercedes, and it was so dominant. Then he realized what a bad chassis they had. And what happened the very next year? They missed the show with both drivers. Unser and Fittipaldi missed the race.
The only time Roger Penske ever came to the Indianapolis 500 and looked like a complete jerk. He just absolutely was not ready, and you're exactly right. He had such a dominant engine the year before, they didn't know how bad they really were in the chassis department.
And they found out in 1995 when both Unser and Fittipaldi missed the race. You and I were doing a wrap-up show in qualifying. We simply could not believe what we were reporting.
No, I mean, I don't think anybody would ever believe. The captain has always been the guy to beat at Indianapolis no matter what else he did. And that year, he just wasn't even close.
You're watching Marco Andretti, of course, your leading rookie contender for Rookie of the Year, but he's a lap off the pace back in 10th position.
And welcome back to the Nashville Super Speedway. More coverage of the Firestone Indy 200. I can tell you, while we've been away on that break, we've had a dramatic change of leader because Sam Hornish now leads. He's taken over the race lead from the former leader and, of course, the current champion, Dan Weldon. So to 1-2, Sam Hornish and Dan Weldon. Let's now cross back to the action live and see what happens.
Tony Kanan's like 17 laps off the pace, but right now he's one of the fastest drivers on the racetrack.
Well, he's keeping right up with those guys. There's no question. That's Scott Dixon back there in 4th place, actually the 5th place in that 5th car in that line. But all 5 of those cars are running much quicker than anybody else on the racetrack right now.
Vito Mira still there in 3rd, right behind Vito is that green and white of Tony Kanaan. But again, he's well off the pace.
Wow.
Well, Weldon felt from the very first race he had something to prove. And now that he's had some problems and he's cost, well, the team has cost him some mechanical problems, have cost him a couple of wins. He feels like he has more to prove.
Well, right now, Sam Hornish is running a little bit quicker than Weldon. Once Weldon got back around him, he's running a little bit quicker laps, pulled up on him very slightly every lap, but Dan Weldon, I think his mental determination is going to be tough to overcome.
All right, now here is the last pass for the lead. Looks like about the same way that, a little quicker, a little cleaner than what the pass that Hornish had.
Exactly the same thing. The spotter told Hornish, he's under you, give him room, and right there, you know, that could have been a big problem. Sam could have probably pulled down later on in the race. He might have pulled down, but this early in the race, he says, not worth it right now. I'll let him have that lead back.
Well, the fans seem to like that type of competition here.
Oh yeah, I mean, both those guys are competitors. They both want to win this race, and they're just measuring each other up. A long way to go in this race. They're measuring each other up. They're trying to figure out what's going to be at the end.
Halfway, 100 laps down, 100 laps to go. Another pit stop coming up. They've gone now some 41 laps since the last pit stop.
Yeah,
this is what we have come to expect here at this racetrack. Again, the characteristics of this track are such that we're not going to see side-by-side racing like we see at some other tracks like Texas, but we expect to see a lot of nose to tail like this.
Yeah. Let's go down and see if we can hear from Scott Sharp.
What happened on that pit stop, Scotty?
I tell you, JD, my engineer, and the whole Delphi guys just did a great job. We changed a lot from warm-up and just hit it spot on. We were just cruising. Came in for a stop, routine stop, left aggressively, and then all of a sudden, it's like about 3 pit stops later, someone just hit a kill switch and it shut off. So at this point, it looks like the fuel pump died, or maybe the drive to the fuel pump. Really not sure, but just all of a sudden, no fuel pressure.
You had a chance to see the competition out there. Is there one guy that's impressed you so far?
Well, Vitor, that's for sure. You know, he looked good last night. He looked like, you know, he couldn't get by Dario early on there, but was plenty quick. And looking at what he's doing right now, it's hard to be not impressed a bit.
I think that's important that a driver like Scott, who's been in 160 of these events, he's won 9 of them, he's a former champion, can look at a driver like Vitor and say, I'm impressed with him. And I think many drivers are impressed with him because he's been so aggressive. He just is that far away from victory lane.
He's been so close so many times and never been able to quite pull it off. And, you know, there are a lot of people in the pit area. He's a very popular guy down there. He's done everything you need to do to win a race. He just hasn't quite closed the deal yet. And a lot of people would like to see that happen.
Well, he hangs right to the rear of Sam Hornish. But they're all chasing Weldon, which they have for much of this race.
Yeah, and really Mira appears to be every bit as quick, if not a little quicker than Sam Hornish. I think he's just biding his time, running back there, not trying to really get up there and skirmish with him at this point.
Well, Weldon has led all but 7 laps here, so he's about to ensure himself for the 4th time this season the 3 bonus points for leading the most laps in a race. But again, you talk about strategy, Larry. We're not really sure because these guys may not be showing all the cards they have up their sleeve.
Well, that's right. They're probably going to be making another pit stop here in about another 15 laps. So this next pit stop is going to be very important because it could be the last one. If they can stretch it to 120 laps, now they can't. I think they're going to have to make 2 more no matter what.
Yeah, I'm not sure they can stretch it that much.
They're not going to stretch it that much. They're going to have to make 2 more pit stops. And of course, with only that 1 yellow, which came after the first round of pit stop, it's going to make it very difficult for them.
Of course, Vito Mira's Panther team had a great pit stop that first time, a couple of positions in the pit lane. And he'd like to do that again on this next stop, right along with Franchitti, who's back there in the 7th position. Casper Evans is now 6th. And of course, Casper Evans was involved in that touch at the start of the race when Kanaan took him 3 wide into turn 1, and he immediately backed off from his second row starting position, dropped some 3 positions, and he's labored throughout the evening back there around 6th, 7th, or 8th. Right now in 6th position. Franchitti is 7th, 8th is Matsura, 9th is still Danica, and it's those 9 on the lead lap. Marco is still in 10th, a lap off the pace.
And you can hear Franchitti. He's having to get out of the throttle coming off the corner right here. He has to get out. Now he's back in. The tires beginning to wear, starting to push up towards the wall.
Because earlier we saw in the telemetry that it's 100% throttle all the way around this thing if the car's handling properly. So of course, as they get toward the end of this run on these tires, the tires start to wear, the car starts to slide a little bit, doesn't handle quite as well, so they have to breathe just a bit. In the corner, back up in front, Dan Weldon enjoying a 0.4 of a second lead over Sam Hornish. Vito Mira some 0.7 of a second back. And, you know, in this business, Larry, you're not supposed to play favorites, but I think that all the guys, and even Danica, would be pleased to see a Mira victory.
Well, yeah.
If they couldn't win it themselves, Vito Weirman?
Well, Dan Weldon is certainly not one of the guys that wants to see it.
No, he doesn't want to see it, but
he doesn't want to see it. Neither does Sam Hornish. Those two guys know that they're locked in a battle for the championship. Right now, I think Castroneves is the guy that's probably the most disappointed out there today, because he's never recovered from that initial contact and got back up there to battle with those guys. Scott Dixon's been right up there with those top 3 or 4 guys most of the race, but it's going to be difficult for anybody to beat either Hornish or Weldon here tonight, the way they've been going so far.
Well, so far, Castroneves is the only driver to lead every race this season, but it does not appear tonight that he will have a chance to lead the parade here at Nashville, because he mired back there right now in the 6th position, some 13-14 seconds behind the leader. Dario Franchitti right now back in the 7th position. That is Castroneves out in front of him. Franchitti 13.3 seconds behind.
Yeah, you know, Franchitti's he's not handling all that great right now. He's having a few problems. Those first 3 guys are the 3 guys that are really got their cars hooked up.
You think the winner will come from those top 3?
I think the winner's going to come from the top 4. I think Scott Dixon still has an excellent chance to win this race. He's right in there with those guys. Even though he's behind Kanaan, he's still very, very close and very, very competitive.
Well, Dan Weldon, as we said, has led all but 7 points, or 7 laps, so he will get those 3 bonus points. 4th time this season he has led the most laps to receive 3 bonus points. At one time, several years ago, Larry, they gave bonus points for qualifying, but too many guys were using grenade engines for qualifying. They took those points away. There's a look back at Danica back to Marco.
And of course, Marco a lap down. Ooh, he got a little wide there coming off of that corner. But Danica's still hanging in there on the lead lap. She's pretty far back. She's about 3/4 a lap away from the leaders, but still.
That all could change with a pit stop and or a yellow.
That's right.
There's Marco. Marco again is a lap off the pace. He's back in 10th position.
It'd be interesting. We have to talk to him when he's maybe next week about exactly what happened in the qualifying, because it made such a huge difference having to start so far back. And Herta, again, one of the first guys in the pit area.
We mentioned that after qualifying yesterday, Marco did not make himself available to the media to answer questions. That whole team very, very upset and disappointed at his qualifying effort. The car just simply went away. They missed the mark, and he didn't want to talk about it.
No, he didn't, and he wouldn't talk about it the rest of the day. He never did tell anybody exactly what happened.
Once again, you ride along with Dan Weldon, looking back at Sam Hornish, who is going for his 3rd straight victory. Back beyond that would be the orange and blue car of Vito Mira, then the green and white of Kanaan, who was about 17 laps off the pace.
Yeah, those first 4 guys really have pulled away to about a 10 or 11 second lead, about almost a half a lap lead over the rest of the field. So. And of course, Kanaan is right in there, although he's way, way back in the standings because he missed so many laps in the pits. But he's running right with this lead
Kanaan's
group.
like 17 laps off the pace right now, actually 16 laps.
But those first 4 guys just kind of marking time right now, especially the first 3. Things haven't changed a whole lot in the last 10 or 15 laps, but they're going to be making a pit stop. They'll probably go a little farther this time. They only went 60 laps the first time, but they'll be going a little farther because they did run some yellow flag laps right after that first pit stop.
Thomas Schechter, who was up in the 5th position, headed for the pit lane. So the first of the top 10 to make a pit stop. This will be a routine stop, although early by a few laps.
Well, you know, the one thing they might be counting on by making these a little bit earlier pit stops is the fact that they can gain some speed. Pressure tires will gain some speed.
He almost
looked like
flame shot out the back, and he keeps it going.
Yeah, I think he had a problem. It looked like he had a half shaft broken.
No.
When he took off, it looked like he broke a half shaft, and he pulled right in the
pulled behind the pit wall. So
only one tire smoking when he took off. That's never a good sign.
So we'll cross off Thomas Schechter.
Look at the right rear. Right rear is still shiny. He broke the half shaft on the right rear when he took off.
Well, here comes your leader. And that will give the lead back to Hornish.
Well, that's a little earlier than I expected. Everybody must be counting on at least one more pit stop.
Broken drive shaft, putting Scheckter out as you surmised.
Right. Yeah, I could see immediately. Yeah, immediately when he took off, the one tire was smoking, which is never a good sign. So he had to see if they have any trouble here.
Adjustment there, no adjustment.
Now that was a very good pit stop, no adjustments. He's
here comes Franchitti.
Look how important it is. The guy on the right rear had a little bit of a problem. Well, that was a quick pit stop. As soon as they got the tires on, they went back out. They did not take a full fuel load. They did not take a full fuel load. He should move up a couple of spots.
And here comes Hornish, so that will give the lead to Vito Mira, and that'll be our third leader of the evening.
Well, this could be some strategy. This might be where Castroneves leads his lap, too, if these guys all make a pit stop, because he should be able to go a couple more laps further than anybody else. Let's see if he takes on a full fuel load. I think Weldon took, yeah, he's going to take on a full fuel load. So did Weldon. Franchitti did not.
Dixon is going to lead a lap.
So
here comes Mira for his second scheduled pit stop.
Well, these guys very desperately need
a good pit stop.
A good pit stop. He's done such a good job on the racetrack. They don't need any miscues in here right now. Looks like they did their job.
Good stop.
Here comes
Castroneves. So he will not lead that lap. And there's the flashing lights. And your right front tire changer.
They made a slight adjustment to their front wing.
There comes Scott Dixon, so they'll cycle back through.
Looks like
Mansura coming in, or is he going to he's going to assume the lead? Quick stop.
Yeah, it looked like everybody had a fairly good pit stop. You know, they all look the same, but boy, 0.2 of a second can mean a lot of distance on the racetrack. So we'll see when they all cycle through exactly where they are.
Mansura is going to lead a lap. Whoa! Contact, and who was that? Broken right rear. Which
obviously
it's Hornish.
It's Hornish.
It's Hornish.
Boy, this is going to be a big blow to his point standings. A huge blow. And that was one of the things he said. You have to finish the race. You can't make a mistake. It looked like he got up there in the marbles. I'm not sure what caused him to get up there. Maybe we can get another look at it.
The tire went down.
Well, it could be.
Or was the tire loose? We saw the tire was, the suspension was broken, or the tire was loose, the wheel was loose after the contact. So maybe we can tell before the contact, in fact, was the wheel loose.
This looked to me like he got up in the marbles for whatever reason. I'm not sure why he got up there. He got up in the marbles, and that's what caused the. He went wide around Mira, and he just got up in the marbles. He just got up in the marbles, and that's what caused the wheel to go loose. You hit the wall, the wheels are going to come loose every time on these babies. But he was trying to run wide, and you just can't run up there. You've got to stay on the bottom. And he's the guy in the interview when we said this, who said, you've got to stay on the bottom. And then he didn't do that. And it was a mental error on his part. He thought he was going fast enough and good enough that he could go out there and do that.
Here it is again. He's already made contact with the wall.
Yeah, that's...
Right rear suspension is broken at this point. He's along for the ride.
See, he did not hit that wall very hard. It was not. See right here. He just gets up there. Once it took off, he did the right thing. But trying to drive
I'd like to see that replay again if I could. That replay right there, because it just took off on him. Yeah. I mean, we've seen drivers run that high on this racetrack this evening.
Well,
but they just took off just like there was a huge push.
He got in the marbles.
So the second yellow of the evening. This is for Sam Hornish.
And welcome back to our live coverage of the Nashville Superspeedway Firestone Indy 200 race. It's starting to be really interesting now. Sam Hornish, just a moment or two ago, getting into trouble on the wall. He got on amongst the marbles and paid the price. And we can now bring in the boys here to get their thoughts. Paul, when you saw this, you were in no doubt at all that was what happened. It seemed to fox the commentators.
Hang on here, I think we've got a comment from Roger. We haven't got a comment from Roger. We've got the incident, but yeah, I mean, Sam was just coming up behind Vita and just got widened on the marbles, and also there's a lot of dust there. The concrete itself does dust up quite considerably.
Yeah,
as probably Darren can testify
so
to.
No great mystery, but you were slightly baffled by the commentators. Were a bit puzzled as to what had happened.
Well, he did ask to see it about 3 times, and the bottom line was he ran out of road and hit the wall. It wasn't really anything more complicated than that.
It was
for Sam.
Yes,
ridiculous. He has, you know, he should have hung in there. He was saving fuel. He had a good situation, and he needs the points. He doesn't need a DNF.
And he knew, didn't he, Darren, that really that was a dangerous place to be. That the boys were making the point that really he'd said earlier, you've got to stay low and stay out of trouble at that stage of the race.
Absolutely. I think he wasn't in a second groove by any stretch of the imagination. He just crept out like half a car width. But that's all it takes on a track like this. It can really bite you. It's tighter corners than normal big super speedways with the concrete track, the marbles that'll be cleaned up now for everybody else, but they weren't when he was coming out of the pits. His tyres were still cool, full of fuel.
Frustrating and annoying.
Yeah, absolutely, and just a slight mistake.
Yeah, and also, of course, lucky, because actually there was no real damage to anyone else. He had his own little accident and nobody else got involved.
Well, some tracks you can get away with those wobbles, but because it's so tight here at Nashville, he ran out of road pretty quickly and ended up collecting the wall, whereas if it would have been a bit wider, a bit more runoff area, then he might have had a couple of wobbles and kept it going in a straight line. So he nearly had it, but not quite.
Okay, fine. We can now return to the action once again in Nashville. We're going to hear first of all, though, as Paul said a moment ago, from Roger Penske.
What happened with Sam?
Well, it looked like he came up and got behind Mira after the stop and tried to get around him on the outside, coming off a 2, and got into the gray stuff, got up into the wall. Just unfortunate, but fresh tires and full tank of fuel, just unfortunate it happened.
With the points race so critical, will you be able to repair the car possibly and get him back out? Do you have a shot at all?
No, we're out for the night. We just have to focus next week. It's a tough break for us, but we got 4 races to go, and Weldon was running a heck of a race.
All right, thank you, Roger.
Well, really, it's a tough, no decision, but it's a tough moment because, I mean, that is, as he said, race over.
Yes, I mean, obviously they've had a quick look at the car and decided there's no point throwing a corner at it.
No.
It's fairly late in the race. This is going to be a fast race.
We noticed, didn't we, lots of things starting to happen now, lots of the cars coming in for this splash and dash, and which will get them through to the end just about, they hope.
Might be fumes the last couple of laps. Maybe there needs to be another yellow, or perhaps people will sort of hang back and turn their fuel back and get it as lean as they possibly can in the hope that they can run to the end.
But what about the tyres? Because we saw earlier there was excessive problems earlier on. These are all having tyre problems with this abrasive circuit. They may have to come back in again?
Yeah, absolutely. I think ideally it'd stay out on a normal track, because it looks like we're going back to green in a second, but here they're going to be down to cords. You can actually see white lines on the rear tyres, hopefully.
Here we go then. Let's cross back now to the action live in Nashville.
Get the green this time by. Live coverage from Nashville Super Speedway as they'll take the green flag, completing lap 138 of 200 scheduled.
Yeah, there's some lap traffic up there that
well, that's Kanan, and he's real racy.
Yeah, he really just pulled down and let Weldon go on by. Now then he's going to stay on the bottom and let Mira go by. So you got to give him a lot of credit. He doesn't have to do that. He's getting out of the way. He's letting those guys go race. He knows he's not contention here tonight.
Looks like Patrick got by Missouri for 4th position. So Patrick has moved up 1. Your leader is Scott Dixon. There's Scott.
Yeah, and he's just right now pulling away as the lap traffic back there giving Weldon a little bit of a problem at this point. He and Mira both.
And that lap car would be the number 20 of Ed Carpenter.
Yeah,
vision entry.
We know that Weldon didn't have very kind words for him the first time he got behind him. Doesn't look like he's going to have much better words for him this time.
There were no words. It was just a nice salute.
Well, there he did move over, and I think he's going to move over and let Mira go on by too.
So the first right in 3rd position. Now that's a lap car of number 20, and a car that's 17 laps back is the number 11, the green and white of Kanaan. Actually, 4th place is Danica.
Yeah, Danica.
5th is Franchitti, so Matsura has lost 2 positions the last 2 laps.
Yeah, and Danica actually is running some pretty quick laps. She's coming up on these lap cars pretty well if they get out of her way.
About to go by the number 20 of Carpenter.
Kanaan, and she got around Carpenter okay, so Kanaan now the only lap car between her and the front 3 guys.
Now you got to believe there are a lot of folks cheering for Mira and Patrick to find victory lane for the first time. We'll talk about how many races it takes to find victory lane. Weldon won his 19th time. Ornish won his 9th timeout. Kanaan won his 3rd timeout. Schechter won the 11th timeout. Scott Sharp, the 4th timeout for Scott. Frank 13th. This is the 40th race for Mira. Still looking for that elusive victory after 5 runner-up positions.
Well, we talked about strategy, and you know, right now it looks like Scott Dixon, by not making that pit stop, may have had the best strategy of all, because they did run about 6 or 7 yellow flag laps after that. So that means that you know, he might be able to go 72 laps, and if he can, ooh, look at this. Castroneves down to the inside of Marco trying to lap him.
Well, you made the comment about 15, 20 laps ago. I said the winner will come from the top 3, and you said no, the top 4, because Dixon has an opportunity.
There was no question. Those 4 guys were much quicker than anybody else in the racetrack. Dixon wasn't right up there behind those guys because Kanaan was between them, but he was still running lap speeds at the same speed as they were, so there was no reason he didn't have a chance to win this race. And right now, you know, strategy and track position are so important. Maybe his strategy will be the one to play off. Of course, if he runs out of gas or out of fuel in the last lap, then it won't be such a smart move.
Well, you mentioned fuel. It's 10% ethanol. Of course, a corn-based fuel, and next year they're going to 100% ethanol.
Right. And they will not get as good a fuel mileage. The ethanol does not, you don't get as good a mileage with ethanol, so it'll be interesting to see. And here comes Franchitti. He was coming up on Danica Patrick right there.
That'll be the battle for 4th position. Marco looking back. Marco now back in 9th position. That's Elio right behind him, and Briscoe right behind Elio. Elio back in the 7th position.
I'm a little surprised that Castroneves' spotter's not down there really giving Marco's spotter a little what for right now to get him out of the way, because Marco's a lap down. Castroneves still in the lead lap with a chance to move up a couple more spots and still in the points chase.
Briscoe will lap off the pace.
Look how much faster he is. Now that maybe Marco is getting out of the throttle, we're going to let him go by.
Well, he went by, whether we let him go by or not. Yeah, he did, because here comes Briscoe.
Yeah.
Marco gets passed by Briscoe because he did breathe the throttle.
Well, and that's what he didn't want to happen. That's why he wasn't letting him around that well before, because that was a pass for position.
That was a pass for position. So Briscoe goes to 9th, and Marco drops to 10th.
Right. And that's the reason he was battling Castroneves a little harder. But I'm sure what happened was the spotters up on top of the roof. Castroneves' spotter went down there and said, hey, get that kid out of the way.
This is a battle for position right here. It's a battle for 4th. Franchitti to the inside of Danica.
Yeah, and Danica moved over and let him have the bottom. I'm really surprised.
But he couldn't make the pass.
No, he couldn't make the pass still.
Now let's see you. Now you got to get on the throttle to it right there.
She closed the door on him right there. She didn't
gave him room before.
No, she didn't close the door. She just didn't give him the bottom of the racetrack.
But she gave him room before the last lap, and he couldn't make the pass.
But look, when he loses momentum and has to get out of the throttle, look how much ground he loses to her. And now he's got 8 car lengths to make up.
Well, back up in front, the 2 Target Chip Ganassi cars running 1 and 2. Scott Dixon, his teammate Dan Weldon. Vito Mira is still 3rd. Patrick is 4th, and Franchitti is 5th. Matsura is 6th, 7th Castroneves, 8th Simmons. Those 8 on the lead lap.
Well, this ought to be interesting because Weldon is catching Dixon. He and Mira both have caught him. They were back about a second behind. Now then they're only 0.3 of a second behind. So it'll be interesting to see once they catch Dixon if they can make the pass.
Weldon there in 2nd position. You see the interval between 1st and 2nd. And there is Vito Mira back in 3rd position.
As he has been all year long, hanging around in the top 3, still not being able to pull off the victory.
Well, he's had 4 top 5 finishes this season.
And boy,
Two of those were runner-up positions, and he is all over the rear of Dan Weldon.
Yeah, I think he and Weldon are definitely the two fastest cars on the racetrack right now.
Well, there's Danica, and of course Franchitti has caught back up to Danica. They had a good spat for position a few laps ago.
Yeah, and she's really staying on the bottom of the racetrack. She's not going to let him get to the bottom underneath. If he wants to go around, he's going to have to do it the hard way.
Well, that's exactly where Sam said he had to stay all race, but couldn't keep it down there trying to pass Vito Mira.
Once in a while, the thing you do, though, by staying that low on the racetrack is you kind of kill some of your RPMs and kill some of your speed. On this racetrack, it doesn't hurt you near as much as it does on some of the others, though.
Now there's a look at Franchitti, who won this race just a year ago, lives not far away here in the Nashville suburbs. The Scotsman.
Yeah, he's trying desperately. You can see him shifting gears.
There's Ashley.
Yeah, she's definitely watching very intently what's going on the racetrack, because he's working very hard to get around Danica. She's done nothing wrong. She's run her groove, and he just hasn't been able to figure out a way to get around her yet.
And he's used several different grooves.
Yeah, he's tried to run high. He knows exactly what happened to Sam Horner. She doesn't want to get out there and have the same thing happen to him. So he's going to have to try to get that little run somewhere on the racetrack and get his nose inside of her going into the corner. Look how close she runs down the straightaways.
Again, this is the battle for 4th position. Franchitti is 5th. Matsura is in 6th position. 7th is Castroneves, and those 7 on the lead lap. Now Jeff Simmons is going to lap down in the 8th position. So only 7 cars on the lead lap. There is Matsura, who led a couple laps earlier before he made that last pit stop.
Yeah, after that last pit stop, I think whatever they changed on the race car did not work near as well. He was running better before the last pit stop. He's lost several positions after that last pit stop. I think they changed the wing or whatever, and he slowed down.
Could just be the set of tires they put on there.
Well, could be just an unmatched set of tires. There's Castroneves, who has pretty much struggled all day long. I mean, for him, for most people, they'd be happy to be running that well for most of the race.
Well,
but
not the last driver in the lead lap in 7th position.
No, he's not happy with that, but he has not really been in contention since. I've got to believe that he had something bent just slightly on that very first lap, because he's never been in contention since then.
39 laps to go. And there is Simmons, who's a lap off the pace, but is currently in 8th position. And right behind him is Herta. Herta is back in 12th position now. He's about 3 laps off the pace.
Yeah, Simmons was having a pretty good run. Here comes Briscoe as he gets the inside of Herta.
Briscoe now back in the 9th position as you go back on board Franchitti on lap 162, and that is Danica Patrick out in front of him. This is the battle for 4th spot. Back up in front, the teammates. Weldon has won once this season, and his teammate Scott Dixon won once. Scott won on the road course in a very cold, damp afternoon in the Finger Lake region of Watkins Glen in New York. Dismal day, wasn't it? And of course, the win coming at Homestead for Yellow, the 3rd of the evening.
Well, this will be interesting. This definitely gives Scott Dixon enough fuel.
You said they may have made an adjustment, and the car was not running as well, and
obviously it's not
clouded the wall.
Not running as well now as he's clouded, exactly hit the wall. So yeah, whatever they did on that last pit stop, whether they put on a set of tires that were mismatched or they made an adjustment to the car, was really caused him all kinds of problems. He hit the back end pretty hard, tore the whole rear wing off, as well as both left side tires.
Well, now will we see pit stops?
No. The track position is too important. Scott Dixon now does not have to worry. He will have enough fuel to make it to the end. The big question will be, can Dan Weldon get around him? So, Weldon and Mira both seem to be a little quicker, but boy, trying to get around him is going to be very, very difficult. So Scott Dixon may be the smartest strategist of all of them as he stayed on the racetrack.
Let's watch a replay, Larry, to see what happened to Matsura in the Fernandez entry. Obviously making contact with the rear of the car first and knocking off the wing and the left rear. And this is after the fact.
Yeah.
Hit the safer barrier.
He'd already been up there and hit everything after everything was already torn off. So it happened pretty far back in the corner. So whatever happened as he entered the corner and he got up into the walls. I doubt if it was something to do with the marbles, because it happened way too early in the corner.
Well, the third yellow of the evening. Money Rice coasted into the pits early on lap 64 to bring out the first yellow. Sam Hornish got high in the gray and the marbles, hit the fence and slipped to the inside of the racetrack on lap 130. Now lap 164, another accident, a single car crash involving Matsura. You can see the contact to the safer barrier up there, and they're picking up some of the shards of fiberglass and carbon composite. So the pits are open. Let's see who avails themselves to the pit lane as the running order. Scott Dixon and his teammate Dan Weldon, and Vito Mir in third. Danica Patrick is fourth, and Dario Franchitti is in fifth position.
I'd be very surprised. Franchitti is probably going to have to make a pit stop. He and Castroneves, because they've got a lot of laps on their cars. Maybe not, but they would be the only ones I would think would even think about coming into the pits.
Vito Mir back in third position. He finished third a week ago. Make that 2 weeks ago at Kansas. He was second the race before that at Richmond.
Yeah, there do come a couple of them. I think Franchitti is one of them. He and Castroneves both. They were going to be close on fuel. I figured he and Castroneves were going to have to come in because they were going to be pretty close on fuel. They don't need. All they got to do is put on new tires and go back out. They don't have to get a full load of fuel because they. Yep. Those guys both had to run about 75 or 76 laps on that load of fuel in order to make it, because they were the first ones to pit the last time around, and they both figured the same as I did. They couldn't make it.
So the leaders all stay out. They will stretch it as they work on lap 167 of the scheduled 200. You see the sweeper out there. The crew still out there as Scott Dixon leads his teammate.
And welcome back. So it's really getting to an interesting stage of this race in Nashville. A lot could still happen, a lot has already happened, and I guess we ought to talk to the studio experts here about what's going on there. This is building up to be quite a decent finish, but what do you make of the likely winner now? I mean, it could be any one of, what, 5, 6 guys?
I think it'll be any one of 2 guys, to be brutally honest, and it'll be Scott or Dan, barring some kind of accident. Be interesting to see if Scott gives way at the last minute, because as I said at the head of the show, you know, Chip is enormously competitive, and putting Dan to the front, those extra points might be what's required at the end of the season. But you know, at the end of the day, this is a competitive race, and I'm sure Chip would like a 1-2 in any fashion. Vita is so strong. But we've only got 6 cars on the lead lap, which at this point in the race is quite an interesting scenario.
And Darren, we were saying Dario Franchitti with all sorts of problems trying to get past Danica, and Paul was making the point, and I'm sure you'd agree, that she actually wasn't doing anything she shouldn't. She wasn't blocking, it's just that he couldn't get a settled line to get past her.
No, that's right. I mean, she was just coming out of the corners on the low line and going in on the low line, you know, and not using all the road on the way out either. So just making it hard, and as we've seen already with Sam trying to go just a little bit outside, I'm sure Dario, with all his experience, isn't going to risk anything. He's going to need to get a full run on her.
Incidentally, I understand they're extending the yellow because they're repairing the safety barrier as well as cleaning the circuit once again. But just to go back to you, because you actually said Scott Dixon was your choice.
Absolutely.
You've got him in the sweep.
He's always my choice, Scott. Always, he's best buddies with me. So, but yeah, he's just got his car up there. You know, these races, it's a long race. You spend the whole of the the race at the early stages and early pit stops, changing the car, changing the tyre pressures and getting it so your tyres can last the rest of the race, and you've got a good handling car for the sprint at the end. And
it's amazing how often this happens, isn't it? All the times these races are run, how it comes down to those vital last few laps when it all happens, rather than a race just taking a pattern and going through conclusively. So often that doesn't work out like that.
No, and as I've said time and time again, it's the strategy in the first part of the race that plays into the hands at the end of the race. How you've done your tyres, how you've done your fuel, where the yellows have fallen. This yellow has been fantastic because nobody's really got to have any kind of drama. It's not a splash and dash. Everybody's topped up and ready to go.
Yeah, so we should see some decent racing in the closing stages. I mean, that's the one good thing it's going to do.
Without a doubt.
Yeah, and you did make the point actually earlier on that tactics, as you say, are so vital towards the end, but particularly here with all this extra tyre wear and one or two other things that have happened too in the race.
Yes, I mean here particularly the tyres have given out before the fuel. Normally it's the fuel give out before the tyres. So there's been a little more complications in the game, but now everything's settled. Let's see what happens.
And what will this mean for the championship for Dan if he wasn't to win?
Well,
where does that leave him?
I think
a long way off
it's
the pace.
great. No, you see obviously Sam's not, who's championship leader.
Well, that's true.
He's not scoring any points.
So he's not
going
to get any points.
So he's going to claw a load of points back on Sam, and Helio's down the field. Even though we saw him during the break there while we're away going for some fresher tyres. So he's hoping to actually get to the front on actual pace, even though he's back down the field a little bit.
We're actually seeing the repair work that I mentioned just a moment or two ago, Paul. This is talk about on the hoof. This is doing it as we speak.
Yes, that's definitely local blacksmith stuff out there. But as we've seen with the safer barrier, I mean, as Darren will probably testify, I mean, the safer barrier is an extremely hard implement, but it's a lot softer than the wall, and we've seen dramatic improvement in the way that accidents have been managed as opposed to 2 or 3 years ago when they hit the concrete wall. This may look a little bit agricultural, but let me assure you that it's made a huge impact on safety. Excuse the pun.
Okay, fine. Let's talk about Sam Hornish though, because it was frustrating the way that his particular race came to an end.
Without a doubt, I got a sneaking suspicion though. You see, Sam's enormously competitive. We've seen every time he runs, he has to get to the front, and I think just impetuosity.
Well, we can now hear from the man himself. Here is Sam Hornish.
Been really good through 1 and 2. The problem that we were finding is a little bit of looseness off before, so we came in, made adjustments, and the car was pretty good, and just went out there. And I know it was only the second lap on the new tires, so they might have been a little bit cold, and just went in there and tried to get a good run on Vitor to come off the next corner, and it never turned. The car just went straight. So it was really unfortunate for the team, but I guess there's nothing I can do about it now. I'll just have to keep working hard at it and see if we can get this points lead back and continue to be strong for the rest of the season.
Well, he's trying to be positive. That's the right thing to do, but huge disappointment for him.
Yeah, you never like going out in the middle of the race there and not being at the end. Obviously, he had a great car, and he was up there, challenging for the lead all the way through the race, and just hanging fire for the sprint to try and get the win at the end of it all. But
well, you talk about that. We are actually going back to green now. Racing is underway. Let's cross back once again to Nashville.
They've got to get a really terrific start. Look at Weldon.
Look at Weldon. Look at Weldon.
He's hunting. He's trying to figure out a way.
Anticipating.
Yep.
He's right on the throttle before his teammate does as the green comes out.
Well,
did he?
He's trying. No, I don't think so. I think Dixon got a great start. He may have got a little bit of a jump, but not nearly enough. And look at Castroneves. He goes to the outside. He passes all but one of those lap cars. So he got around 2 of those lap cars on that restart. And there he goes by Jeff Simmons. And look at this.
Look at Vitor Mir up to second position. Vitor Mir up to second. Can he pull off his win in the 40th start in the IndyCar Series? Wow. Vitor Mir, and look at Patrick on the inside. She had a thought about going by Weldon.
Well, Weldon evidently evidently he got such a good run, and he got up there and he had to get out of the throttle rather than run over his teammate. And when he got out of the throttle, he gave Mira that little bit of extra impetus to go on by him. So he got a pretty good restart, not quite good enough, and it actually ended up costing him a spot on that restart.
Well, you're right along with Danica right now, but right behind Danica is Castro Neves. He got a great restart and got by those lap cars.
Yeah, everything that he did wrong the first part of the race, he's making up for right here near the end, as he right now has a great shot at running in the top 4, which is what he wants to do for the point standings.
So Scott Dixon with a 0.3 of a second lead over Vito Mira. Mira then being challenged for second by Dan Weldon, who's back in third, then Patrick, then Castro Neves, then Franchitti. Those 6 are on the lead lap.
Well, I can promise you that Dan Weldon right now, he's not a very happy man. He knows exactly what he did. I mean, he did what he thought was right. He tried to get the lead, but when he didn't have enough momentum to go around him, he had to back off a little bit and let Vito Mira go around. And Mira right now looks like he's every bit as fast as Scott Dixon, if not a little bit faster.
And here comes Weldon, top of your screen, the top 3, nose to tail on this racetrack on lap 180.
Weldon's the fastest guy on the racetrack, no question about it. He really gained on Mira that time around. But once you get down to that corner, boy, you just got to give him that corner. And the bad thing is you can't run a half car width up through the corners here. See right there, he tried to follow him through and he lost the front end, pushed up towards the wall. That's the only thing you can do here.
Top 3.
Whoa, right there, he really lost the front end.
He's way up on the racetrack.
Mira came down across his front end, took the air off of the front wing.
And look at this, here comes Danica.
She's going
to get up high too and get in trouble.
Yeah, she decided not to do that. That was a smart decision on her part, because that was not going to end up pretty if she'd gone to the outside through that corner.
Well, she's going to have all she can handle right now in Castro Neves.
Well, when she had to get out of the throttle, it gave Castro Neves a chance to catch up with her.
Riding on board Vito Mira, he's in second position. He's finished second twice already this season. 1 3rd-place finish, 1 5th-place finish. And boy, he'd like to dig his way by Scott Dixon right now.
Boy, it's just so difficult on this racetrack to make any kind of a move like that. I mean,
you make a mistake, you lose a lot of ground.
That's right. You know, you can do those things, but boy, if you make a very big mistake, it could cost you. You could end up like Sam Hornish. You know, the thing may feel good going in, but by the time you get those little marbles, and believe me, there's tons and tons of marbles.
Look at this. Well, Vitor Mira sizing him up, seeing where perhaps he has the advantage. As you see, 17 laps to go.
Well, he's trying to figure it out. He's trying to figure a way.
You know, this Panther team has won 2 championships with Sam Hornish, but you know, it would mean so much to them. This could be one of the biggest wins of that team's history.
Well, it certainly would.
They need a victory.
They had some really good times. They've had some really bad times. They're going through some of the bad times right now. But Mira has certainly driven the wheels off that race car this year. There's no question about that. And he's doing it again here tonight. I just don't know with the racetrack, this kind of a racetrack, if he can find a way to get around Weldon.
He's trying different grooves.
Yeah, he's going in. He's going up high. He's trying to get his momentum up. But it's so difficult to keep your momentum up through the corners and then get a run off the corner. Everybody, all 3 of those guys are running so well that nobody can get the advantage on the other guy.
Vitor right with him. You see a different entry into that corner. Comes up high, dives across the turn. Oh, look at this.
Well, at this stage, we're going to take a short break. Stay with us, though, for the climax to this terrific race from Nashville. And welcome back. 8 laps to go now in the Firestone Indy 200 from the Nashville Superspeedway. And Britain's Dan Weldon now up to second place, chasing Scott Dixon for what will be a famous victory. Let's cross back to commentary.
when he did, he almost lost, like you said, he almost lost another spot to Danica Patrick.
Well, Danica, the topic of much conversation this week because her parents went to Chicago to watch the NASCAR race and kind of just, snooped around, see there might be some interest, and boy, the media got a hold of that, and it was a firestorm.
Boy, it certainly was. And look at Weldon now that he's catching his teammate with only 6 laps to go.
Mira may still win this thing if they take each other out.
Yeah, he might. I mean, Weldon is on a mission. I just don't know how brave he's going to be when it's his own teammate, though.
Well, and I don't think they're team owners. I really don't think that Ganassi's going to tell him to...
No, Ganassi's not going to tell him who's going to win the race. He's going to let them race
each other. And we've seen teammates crash before, i.e. the Penske boys.
And let's see if Weldon can make this thing work for him, as he did with Mira. Gets on the outside, gets that run down to the inside.
He has to be careful coming across through that car.
Right there.
Oh, he lost a lot of ground right there.
Yep, he got it. See?
That should probably do it for Dixon.
A little bit of look at this. Chip Ganassi is a very nervous car owner right now.
Well, 3 laps to go, he's going to be a very happy car owner. He's going to finish 1-2.
Yep.
But I think Weldon that time just took himself out of contention. I think Dixon's got this one. Of course, I said that about Marco at Indianapolis, and the Hornets came back and nipped him.
Yeah, a little bit of a different story here, though. You got a little more experience up there in front. Scott Dixon is not going to make a mistake. That's the one thing he's not going to do. He's very experienced. He's a very smart guy. He's not going to make a mistake. If his teammate beats him, then he's just going to have to.
Well, he's going to have a shot at him. He's going to have one more shot. Well, the white flag will fly this time by.
Well, he's going to try to get out there. He's going to try to get that run down the straightaway right here. And
there's
stick
the white
his nose.
flag. There's the white flag. 1 lap to go.
Stick his nose. See, Dixon's not going to give him that inside. But he's going to go to the outside now. Then this is going to be his chance. If he's going to make the pass, it's going to be right here. But Dixon's just not going to give him enough room. Well, he's going to go to the outside. Nope. No room out there either.
Dixon's going to block that inside, and he's going to take this victory. Here it is, and his second win of the season for Scott Dixon. Weldon takes second. Second time this season, Mira finishes third. Patrick holds on for fourth. Castro Neves takes fifth. Well, so Mira, for the second straight race, finished in third position. Doesn't hurt his points any. Let's see if we can get the old Chip Ganassi down there. There's a fireworks blast overhead.
Ganassi's first 1-2 finish for Target Ganassi in IRL IndyCar competition. Congratulations.
Jerry, thanks. I mean, we've led a lot of laps this year. We beat ourselves a bunch. I'm sorry that Sam got put out of the race. We wanted to beat him fair and square, and hopefully this gets us back a little closer in the points. And I don't know what the points are, but this certainly helps tonight.
Hey, congratulations. Go celebrate with Scott Dixon.
Thank you very much. He's a good driver. He's a good racer.
So Scott wins on the road course at Watkins Glen, on the tri-oval here in Nashville. So Dixon takes the victory. And there was the interval between first and second, with Weldon second, Mira third, Patrick fourth, and Castro Neves fifth. As the concussion bombs go off overhead, the fireworks being shot off, and already he is in victory lane.
Yeah, he's going to be a pretty happy guy, and he won that race strictly with the pit strategy. The last pit stop, they went a little longer than anybody else. When that yellow flag came out, he made it 72 laps without making a pit stop, and it made a big difference. So it was a great strategy on his part, on his team's part, and they made it work for him.
Well, he's still in the car. Look at all the dirt, the tires, the rubber, the grease on the side view mirrors there as he pulls off the helmet. And the head sock coming off. The helmet's still strapped with his radio line.
Yeah, his crew hasn't made it there yet to help him get all out of there.
And there, Vito trying to explain his situation. There's Danica, who finishes in fourth position. She has to be happy with her ride here.
I think she's real happy with her ride. Since they've got this new chassis, that's by far the best they've done with it. The best they've had it hooked up. They've always run the G-forces. They started the Delars just a few races ago, and it's been a big problem for them. And looks like they're finally getting it sorted out.
Well, victory lane celebration commencing momentarily, but the driver is still in the cockpit. Live coverage from the Nashville Super Speedway. Jamie Little down there to converse with our winner, who is still in the cockpit. I'm not sure why he's in no hurry to climb out.
Well, I don't know either, but he'll be getting out of there in a second. Jamie will grab him as soon as he does. Took his crew a while to get there. He didn't go out and do the donuts and everything like everybody usually does.
Dixon makes his way out of the cockpit. You guys, it has been 3 years since Scott Dixon tasted victory on an oval track. It's his second win of the year. We're going to get over here to him. One of the coolest prizes right here, one of the coolest trophies ever, is the Gibson guitar. It's now Scott Dixon's. Scott, take us through your race. What was the difference? I know it's been a long time coming on an oval for you.
Yeah, it's been a long time, and you know, today I don't think we had the fastest car, but we were consistent in traffic. We actually crashed into Helio in turn 2 there on the start and bent the front a bit, so it was a bit slow, but the guys did a great job on the pits. Our fuel mileage was awesome, so credit to Target 1-2, that's awesome, and it's good to see.
Of all people out on the track, it was your own teammate trying to run you down. They're telling him to tuck behind you and try to gain some momentum to get around you. How'd you hold him off?
I don't know, I think, you know, being out front, it was easy to protect you. Once you got on the bottom, the high line was good, but it wasn't good enough, I think, to get around a fast enough car. And, you know, I was trying to hold him off. Dan was definitely a fast car tonight, and probably the one I think if it came down to speed would have won. But, you know, we were out front and we kept it.
All right, Scott Dixon takes over the win for Chip Ganassi, and they stop Penske domination. Dr. Punch.
So, terrific win then for Scott Dixon, and pretty good for Chip Ganassi, really, overall. It was a very good race at the end there, Paul.
No, without a doubt. I mean, Scott held on superbly. Wasn't a case of an inherited win. He actually worked for that, and Dan put him under extreme pressure.
Yeah.
But I think, you know, Dan had that slug with 4 laps to go, lost the momentum and settled for the second place.
But there was no problem about that. He had to lose momentum. He had no option, really, there.
No, it's either that or in the wall, and he needs every point. He's scored 3 points for his most laps led, plus the points that he gets for second place.
Sure.
So he's nibbled a good chunk out of Sam. That could be definitely the difference at the end of the season.
So slight disappointment maybe not winning, but the fact, as you say, that Sam didn't finish, that's a very good result for him.
Huge result for him.
Yeah. And what about Danica? Let's bring you in, Darren, because that was a pretty good performance, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, they're
all the speculation about maybe where she's going to go off to NASCAR or whatever, but I mean, she's driven a brilliant race.
Well, absolutely. I mean, this is going to put her back up in the limelight a little bit and get motorsport to the front of the newspapers again. It's good for all of us when she does well. So it looks like the Ray Hall team are starting to get to grips with their new Dallara chassis a little bit more, and starting to get onto a bit more of a level playing field with some of the big boys.
Yeah, that's a welcome victory for Scott, though, isn't it? You say you know him well.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, he's kind of the old taskmaster of the team, really. You know, he's been around a long time. He knows how to win races, even when he doesn't have a fast car, like he said. You know, so he's been around a lot. He's won the championship. He's won a lot of races for Chip, and he's going to be there for a long time to come. And the new boys come and go, but he tends to stick around and keep picking up wins, and he's still probably leading Dan in the points as well.
Yeah, and he did well to hold Dan off there, didn't he? Because Weldon, without doubt, wanted that win badly, and he had a car that was capable of giving him the victory.
Yeah, definitely. You know, maybe like Scott said in the interview there, you know, with his touch with Helio, and he touched the wall a bit when he was in front of Dario as well. So I'm sure his car wasn't handling the best, and it just takes a couple of millimeters here and there, maybe, you know, a slight scuff to your bodywork or something, just to slow you down, just that mile an hour or two to you know, to slow you down and let everybody else catch up.
So Chip Ganassi be a pretty happy man this weekend, I guess.
Yes, he's pulled the news the whole week with Juan Pablo last weekend and obviously a race win this weekend. So he's going to be a happy punter.
And Darren, you were saying he's a man who always likes to stay ahead of Penske. That's his obsession in life. He'll be delighted.
Yeah, that's what I was telling you guys earlier. That's all he says in the meetings before the race. You know, the team meetings is we've got to beat the orange cars. We've got to beat the orange cars all the time. You know, and they know that they're the two big money-spending teams. I think Penske probably do spend a bit more money than even Chip does, even though they're a big budget team and have all the facilities that they need to win races. And he knows they are always the ones to beat. So it was a definite good one for the Ganassi boys.
So that's race 8 out of the 14 now gone, Paul. What do you make of the rest of the season, the run-in? How's this all going to shape up? Because Weldon obviously must be a strong candidate to get that title again.
He's got to keep winning, or he didn't win today's, but he's got to keep finishing first or second. You know, Sam's going to be sort of not admonished by Roger, but he's definitely going to be taken in hand a little bit and say, hey, come on, you know, you
can't afford to do that again.
Racing's one thing, but you know, you have to have a little bit of consistency. We've got a trot of 3 races to go here that are all compacted in, travelling all around the country. They've got to be focused on keeping the car on the track.
Yes.
But at this moment, it's going to be Ganassi or Penske for the championship. It's that simple.
And Darren, what about you? How do you see this all working out?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's just closing up and coming out into a great battle, isn't it? You know, and you know, I think now the tide is turning ever so slightly. I think at the beginning of the season, the Penske guys did have a head start on pace and performance and strategy and everything. And but I do think the Ganassi guys are working things out with their car. Remember, the Penske guys have had the Dallara for a long time, and this is the first year for these guys, and they're improving. Now they've got the qualifying performance out of it as well, which they didn't used to have. They always used to think Penske's had a couple of mile an hour on them in qualifying. But come race, it all evens it out. Now it's more even all the way through, so it's going to be tight.
And some good races to look forward to. To both of you, thanks very much indeed. That is just about it for another outstanding IndyCar race. Yet again, the series serving up plenty of side-by-side racing and great action. So congratulations now to our winner, Scott Dixon. Meanwhile, let's just remind you, they'll be racing once again next weekend. You can see it live here on Sky Sports. Definitely a race that's not to be missed, because they're racing the historic Milwaukee Mile, the fairground track on the outskirts of Wisconsin's capital city. So my thanks as ever to you, the viewers, for joining us tonight, and thanks to my special guests. Let's now leave you with some of the best action from the Nashville Superspeedway.